Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel, Investo Time. Today, we dive into a major development that's shaking the gold and silver markets. China's strategy might just be the game changer we've all been waiting for. Let's break down the latest insights from Schectman.
I think it's a bunch of nonsense that the Western media runs with this because after 18 months of recording purchases, go back and look at what happened way back when. They never updated their numbers. And so this is a deal, as you mentioned, of complete and total gaslighting. And look what it did to the price. And that's the idiocy of the Western investor who does things reactionary instead of being proactive, seeing things for what they are, understanding that in the end, the numbers will play out, I think, outperform everybody's expectations. But to your point, Andrew, the gaslighting, the reactionary environment in the West is silly. If you can't see where this is going and you just react to the news in the West, I mean, it's funny because all of a sudden you get Reuters talking about China stopping buying gold, but they never talk about gold. But if it's negative, yeah, they'll talk about it.
China's recent aggressive and consistent gold buying spree has captivated global financial markets, signaling a significant shift in its approach to foreign reserves. In August, the People's Bank of China, PBOC, added another 29 tons of gold to its reserves, continuing a 10-month trend of monthly acquisitions. This brings China's total gold purchases in 2023 to an impressive 155 tons. These figures highlight a deliberate strategy by China to move away from traditional foreign exchange assets, such as U.S. Treasury bonds, and to strengthen its gold holdings as a hedge against potential economic shifts and vulnerabilities tied to the U.S. dollar. According to legendary investor Schectman, China's official gold reserves were reported at a seemingly static 1,200 metric tons for years, raising suspicions given the country's status as the world's largest gold producer and importer. However, in reality, Chinese commercial banks, acting on behalf of the central bank, were quietly purchasing gold from sources like South Africa and Switzerland without disclosing these transactions to international authorities. This lack of transparency led many in the West to mistakenly believe that China's interest in gold had waned, causing them to underestimate the true extent of China's gold accumulation. Schectman emphasizes that recent reports suggesting China had halted its gold purchases were misleading. In fact, the People's Bank of China continued its buying activities, despite claims to the contrary. These misleading reports likely manipulated market sentiment to suppress gold prices, creating an environment where China and other nations could continue buying gold at lower prices. Western investors, often swayed by short-term news and market fluctuations, tend to react impulsively to headlines, making them vulnerable to manipulation. In contrast, those who look beyond the surface and understand the long-term implications of China's actions recognize that gold remains a crucial asset for the future, not just a relic of the past. We'll share clips from Schectman's interview with Andrew Maguire shortly. But first, if you enjoy content like this, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell for updates. Thanks, and enjoy the video.
In every interview I did over that time period, I said it's crap. First of all, my entire career, I've been doing this for 34 years. And I can remember back in the day, everyone said China lies about the amount of gold that they have or produce because their numbers stayed somewhere near 1,200 tons forever. They never updated it. And they've been producing between 300 and 500 metric tons a year forever alone. But they're the largest producers. They're the largest importers. And I said, it's a bunch of nonsense. If the commercial banks that work by proxy for the PBOC are buying gold from the refiners in South Africa and Switzerland, I don't think they're telling the IMF how much they bought. If on behalf of the PBOC, if they are buying gold that's not 995 pure or 995 pure or less, they're not telling the IMF how much they're buying. You had the head of the IMF come out and say that their numbers are fugazi, that they're not right, that they are understating it. You had the lead analyst for the Bank of Montreal say the same exact thing. And then there was just a report that came out that said because the bullion banks take care of the gold transport for the PBOC, shipments from London to Beijing are disclosed in UK customs data. And the customs data reveals that the PBOC continued to buy gold in May. Yeah, it was gaslighting to drive the price down 100%. And I think, indeed, if you think about it, why the hell would they be open and forthright. If indeed we are moving to a system that will have gold behind it, like the unit, why would they ever want to tell anyone how much they own? And look at the way that we in the United States do not disclose how much gold we have. Supposedly we have 8,300 metric tons, yet it hasn't been audited since 53. And when Ron Paul asks to audit our own gold, it gets turned down. So, I think it's a situation where they have every vested interest, shall we say, in not being forthright about it. And I think it's a bunch of nonsense that the Western media runs with this, because after 18 months of recording purchases, go back and look at what happened way back when. They never updated their numbers. And so this is a deal, as you mentioned, of complete and total gaslighting. And look what it did to the price. And that's the idiocy of the Western investor who does things reactionary instead of being proactive, seeing things for what they are, understanding that in the end, the numbers will play out. Being so reactionary means you'll never win in investing, because by the time you are reacting, the big money has already positioned themselves. And so this is why so few people ever succeed in investing, because they are reactionary instead of trusting the numbers and understanding that this is all noise. You just have to look at the end game. And the end game is the dollar's in big trouble. We are heading for a very bumpy road. And you can see it by the fact that the most well-funded, but more importantly, well-informed traders in the world, the central banks who are being told probably by the BIS what is coming, have been buying gold at a rate that no one has ever seen before. And you know how they're doing it? The reason that all of this is our own stupidity in the UK and the United States, because we suppress the hell out of the price of gold and silver on the LBMA and on the COMEX that allows these large institutions to run cover, to under the cover of suppression, to stand for delivery. And that's the difference, is that, most of my career, no one stood for delivery. Now they are. That's how they beat us at the game. And you can see it by the amount of deliveries coming off the LBMA, coming off the COMEX. You can see it if you just pay attention, but you got to dig. And the Western media is doing such a disservice to the public by not telling them what's happening, because you can't get out of the way of what you don't see coming. And I would say to you, something like this could go from a little trickle to bang, just like that. Yeah. If indeed they do announce, gold is tier 1.
At the beginning of 2024, for major economies from the Middle East and North Africa, Egypt, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates joined the BRICS economic bloc. This move represents a notable shift away from Western influence, particularly from the United States and Europe. For these new BRICS members, this alignment could open new trade and investment opportunities within the bloc and help reduce their reliance on the US dollar. Recent reports indicate that the UK increasingly depends on BRICS nations for essential resources. The UK buys US treasuries from struggling nations to manage its debt, and then uses the proceeds to purchase commodities from BRICS countries. In response, BRICS nations are investing the received dollars into gold, which continues to rise in value, signaling a gradual move away from the US dollar and treasuries. Looking ahead, Andy Schectman envisions two potential scenarios for this transition. The first is a gradual and orderly shift where gold is revalued and the dollar depreciates in a controlled manner. The second scenario is more disruptive, a coordinated global effort to offload dollars and treasuries, which could lead to a dramatic upheaval in the financial system, with soaring interest rates and hyperinflation as countries rapidly divest their dollar holdings. Let's get back to the interview.
You wonder, where the hell are we? What's happened to this great country? I see what's happening in the streets of the UK. I mean, things are upside down, and things need to change, and things are going to change. And I don't know if it'll be peacefully by revaluing the price of gold globally or not, or of a complete and total reset. You look at the lead economic advisor to the U.S. government, this knucklehead named Jared Bernstein. He advocates for losing the reserve status. It's a privilege we can't afford. You look at the number 2, Lael Brainerd, and if God forbid, this current administration walks into the White House again, she'll be the head of the Fed. She's a modern monetary theorist. She worked at the Fed underneath Powell. She developed the CBDC with MIT, the Boston Fed. She ran Point for Fed Now, which came out 8 months ago, which is a instant settlement system backed by the Fed, like Venmo or Zelle. And, who knows? She would like to see a reset. She would like to issue a CBDC. Maybe they can do it peacefully. I don't know. But to your point about the West not settling anymore, I mean, look at the $4 premium in silver to the LBMA and the COMEX price that we've seen forever on the Shanghai Exchange, which over the last 100 days, the volume has increased nearly 200%. And the combined volume of the Shanghai Metals and Futures Exchange now supersedes the COMEX, making it the number 2 most transacted platform on the planet behind the LBMA. We're beginning to see that these exchanges are getting more and more legitimate. And at some point, the Western system will be viewed for what it is, a Ponzi scheme. You can only manipulate a market or push a market in the direction that it is going for an extended period of time by pushing in the direction it's going. You can't hold back global demand, and especially global demand that is being orchestrated by the central banks, not in concert perhaps with the Fed. So times are different. You know, most of my career, Andrew, no one stood for delivery. But these countries now, which back when I started doing this, were many of them third world, are now sophisticated, coordinated, wealthy, and motivated. And they understand they don't need to drop bombs in the United States or in the UK to win. They just need to stand for delivery and buy all of the world's commodities. I saw a report that came out of the UK where the UK said, hey, listen, we're kind of screwed. All of our natural resources, we're reliant on other countries like the BRICS nations. And that's true. And if you look at what's happening right now in the United States, we're selling our treasuries largely to the UK. One broke nation selling their debt to another broke nation, taking the proceeds that we sell our treasuries to you folks for to pay the interest on the debt that's already outstanding and take what little is left extra to buy commodities across the globe from the BRICS nations, who take those dollars and buy gold, which keeps going higher, and gold, which will be the backing of a new system. So they're not buying treasuries, they're not stockpiling dollars. This little by little by little by little, then all at once, it's going to happen. It's logarithmic decay. I don't know what triggers it, but I think it's never been more clear to me that this is a path we are heading on. And is it peaceful through gold revaluation and dollar devaluation, or is it chaotic with an all-out dumping globally of dollars and treasuries, something called Operation Sandman, where they all agree to dump dollars and treasuries at a certain point and blow up the entire system, the byproduct of which would be interest rates spiking to compensate for that hyperinflation, as everyone who's stockpiled dollars for 50 years dumps dollars and they come home. I don't know, but I do know that if you are not a contrarian, you're damn well destined to be a victim. And if you keep all your money in dollars, you're going to go broke. That I do believe. I don't know when, but I think the logic is pretty easy to follow if indeed you pay attention.
A new financial landscape could emerge as more countries increase their gold reserves and reduce their dependence on the US dollar. Nations like China, Russia, and BRICS members are quietly amassing gold, signaling a shift away from dollar dominance. This trend suggests that gold may become a crucial asset in global trade, as countries aim to safeguard their economies from dollar-related risks. Share your thoughts on Keith's prediction in the comments below, and make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more updates. Until next time,